This podcast is sponsored by Salvation Army. Salvation Army, doing the most good.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Autoblog Podcast. I'm Greg Migliore. Joining me today in the studio is senior editor for all things green, John Snyder.
Hey, how's it going?
It is Thursday afternoon. It's looking kind of Scandinavian out there.
It
Wet,
sure is.
damp, and chilly, right?
It looks like when McGraw was in Iceland.
It does. It does. Just a little bit, which is fitting because we're going to drive a Scandinavian SUV later on, or talk about our drive of the Volvo XC90. We're also going to talk about the Audi E-Tron. You're probably wondering, what's an Audi E-Tron? We've heard and seen like 10 different things called E-Trons, from like TTs to R8s to other things. This is actually the midsize crossover, and we think it's pretty great. So we're going to talk about that. Joining us also on the phones from Colorado is senior producer Chris McGraw. He's going to talk about a few different things, but what's up, Chris?
Not too much. It's sunny and chilly here in Colorado.
It's the first week of October. I think we could all just agree that, you know, it's about time for it to chill out and, you know, the leaves can change.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So Chris has a couple cool things. He actually trained like an F1 driver for about a month. So he's going to tell us how that went, all the things he ate, all of his workouts, things like that. And then we're going to spend his money. He is in the market for an old school SUV. We're going to talk about which ones we think might work for him. But let's just jump right in with the vehicle. I just drove it into the office. This is the XC90. One of the, I think the flagship Volvo, that's a good way to put it. It's part of the flagship line, the 90 series, if you will. Maybe the sedan technically carries that flagship honor, but let's be honest, people buy SUVs, so that's what this thing is. It's big, it's comfortable. I think it's starting to look a little dated inside, even though it's still quite nice in there. But what did you think, John?
I like it quite a bit. Ours is the T6 with the Polestar-tuned on it, which is kind of cool. So it's supercharged and turbocharged, which I really like. I really like the interior styling still. It's simple, it's clean, very architectural. I like the exterior styling too, and that color we had, I don't know what it was called, is sort of glossy but not really super metallic gray, and it looked really nice.
Yeah, that was a great color. I really like that. The
car drives well. It's spacious, very comfortable, and lots of useful safety tech.
Definitely. One of the things I always do on like some of the top end Volvos is I mess with the sound system, because you can change it from like the concert hall somewhere in Gothenburg, if I'm saying that right, and just have like a regular studio, or what's the third setting? Like just another more conventional style setting. So what I usually do in Volvos is I queue up the classical channel on satellite radio, put it in concert hall mode, and it's pretty relaxing, especially on a morning like this. I mean, I listen to like 5 football podcasts. I listen to talk radio in town. I mean, I wish I could say I'm constantly listening to The Daily and NPR and like CNN, which I try to. I try to like stay up on things. Obviously, I like to read, but I got to have my sports in the car. But in this car, you know, chill out, listen to some classical music, get in the right frame of mind. And it's a really nice audio setting. It's something they've, you know, they were one of the first to roll this out. I think Lincoln and a few others have added this to the audio systems, but every time I get in a Volvo, it kind of just sticks out at me. Which I think is cool.
This is the 600 watt Harman Kardon premium audio with 14 speakers. It's part of the R Design package. And that R Design is $5,700. Ours came in at $74,735 altogether, which is pretty steep, but
yeah,
you get a lot of stuff on this thing.
Yeah, but it was really nice, and yeah, it did sound great.
When the refreshed one came out, this is a few years back. I think, Greg, this might have been the first review that you and I did together, so that goes to show how long ago. The new one came out, but that interior, man, I'm surprised to hear that you feel like it's dated, because last time I was in one, I still think it might have been one of my favorite interiors of any car under $100,000. And I think that because it was so nice, like some of the competition, like I'm thinking about the Navigator right now, was like, okay, we gotta step up. Lincoln needed to step up what they were doing at the time, and they did. And I don't know if Volvo was directly, what they were looking at when they designed the nice new interiors, but I remember that one being one that I just really loved.
Yeah, I really like the front seats in this one were super comfortable. They're pretty adjustable, but super supportive. They just felt really nice, and they look really nice too. I feel like Volvo does this sort of modern, like not modern as in like contemporary, but modern as in like pre-postmodern sort of styling that looks good, and it's sort of timeless. It's I feel like it would fit in, 10 years from now or 10 years in the past, sort of.
So the area, I think, to be precise, the area I think specifically feels dated is actually the Sensus infotainment system.
Yeah.
I think that's
Yep.
where I like, the rest of the interior does look fine. It's, I think a little, austere, if you will, but that's totally fine. The elements that, are meant to be a little dressier are nice. So yeah, really no problem actually with the interior, like as far as the materials and layout. My criticism kind of focuses on Sensus, which, I mean, if you look at the infotainment system and say the RAM, that thing's huge. It's like it's an enormous like iPad on steroids. This Sensus system, I think, kind of dates back to like 15, 16. I know they've tweaked it a little bit, but just, in this vehicle, it seems small. It still feels kind of layered and hard to use.
Yeah.
Hard to drill down and make it do what you want. So that's really my criticism.
Yeah, it's difficult to navigate. I feel like it would take a lot longer spending time with this to actually get used to it and be able to freely navigate through the menus and find what you're looking for. That's the one big drawback with this. I don't know where anything is in it. I'm poking at different, like swiping right and left, doing pull downs and hitting different tiles, and it's just nothing is where I expect it to be in the system.
Yeah, I remember we looked at that for Tech of the Year, probably 5 or 6 years ago, and it ultimately lost out to Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, I believe. And I'm pretty sure what you just said, John, was why it didn't win. It was a lot. You almost need a degree in it to figure out how to use it. But
overall, I do like this thing. I think we're all kind of in agreement on this front. It looks good. I think the exterior styling in particular is really timeless. I think basically since Volvo kind of moved away from, their last generation of styling, and they have this just, it's just a really good, clean look, with LED headlights, with, fairly big wheels. The shapes are all very, I think, clean, but also prominent. Like when you look at the fenders, the grille, the hood, the real basics of the Volvos, they stand out. Other cars are either too much or not enough. I'm not sure which, as my grandmother used to say. This car really gets it right.
Yeah, Volvo and Audi, I feel like, are just crushing it in terms of having a solid yet sort of conservative design that, it just looks very crisp and clean and well thought out. Another thing I wanted to mention about this is this one had, they've got 3 rows, but this one had the second row bench. For 2020, you can now get the XC90 with second row captain's chairs, which I'm really excited to try out. Everyone in my family loves captain's chairs. So.
Yeah, I like the captain's chairs too, although I will say this with the car seat, you can put it in the middle with the bench. With captain's chairs, you got to pick one side, but
That's true.
So it goes. But overall, this is the kind of vehicle that, whenever I see something like this in the fleet and I'm up on the board, it's like, hey, give me this for the weekend because it's comfortable, it's loaded, it looks good. Everybody in the family is going to be like, hey, oh, great, we have this. I remember that XC90, you and I did that shoot on McGraw back whatever that was, 16, I want to say, 15, somewhere in there. And I put like literally 7 of my relatives in that car. We went down to Corktown in Detroit, and I think we were all in different cars, but then we kind of consolidated in the Volvo because it was like raining or something. I think we were down there for a parade or something. And everybody's like, this is a nice car. Like, so I think it's the right look for a lot of people too.
I agree. And it's super roomy. The cargo area, even with the rear seats up, is really big, really usable. And the seats fold flat, and it's just, you can fit a lot of stuff back there. My wife really wants one of these. She's owned Volvos in the past, and she really wants to go back. And so she was really checking this one out, and just we're both super impressed with it.
Cool. All right, so let's leave that there and move on to another luxury SUV. This is the Audi E-Tron.
Yes.
Came through the fleet last week. We had lunch with some Audi PR folks. Always good to do that. People we've known for a long time. And it was actually funny. They probably told me this. Hey, we're going to bring an E-Tron. But maybe I forgot about it. I don't know. And then like the day before they showed up, I get this note saying, hey, is it cool if we drop the E-Tron off at this time? And I'm like, sure. What? Wait a minute. So the E-Tron shows up and we're like, oh, great. Okay. So obviously we're going to, write some stuff about it. And, it's great to really get some actual real world driving time with this. For me, this, I think, hit out a lot of different levels. I've written about probably like 400 words on this. I'm trying to get together some sort of feature column. At some point, I'm so behind on my writing. I digress. But I mean, it hit me in what is like, first of all, it's a gorgeous car.
Yeah.
Really good looking Audi in all the ways you would expect it to be. They dress it up with some of the EV stuff, like, the shutters behind the grille, the different wheels. You get inside, it feels very futuristic. Most of that is just Audi's infotainment system.
Yeah.
But some of the other things like, the electric stuff, like the EV, like readouts and screens and all the data information you're getting about the vehicle, I think is really cool. I mean, to me, this felt like, very much like driving the future. That's a very much a cliche. But to me, it's like, hey, this thing has over 200 miles of range. It looks cool. It's functional. You could put stuff in it. It's like, this is where I think things are going. And I think you could rationalize the price because it's an Audi, okay? Like, I think it gets tougher when, you're looking at a plug-in electric that's like $40,000 or $50,000 that isn't truly luxurious. This thing is premium and it's loaded, and I want to say it started at like 74 something, which
like 75.8 with destination, and ours.
It's not cheap, but
no, it's not at all. And ours was optioned out to $89,000.
Yeah, that's a lot. I don't know. For me, 75 is okay. We get to close to 90. I'm like, I don't know about that. But I mean, for one, this is, I think, where this kind of resonates, fairly deeply with me, is that I would be willing to pay a premium for a plug, something with a plug that, I think might be better for the environment, for the world. I really enjoy the driving character. Mm-hmm. So all those things kind of like filter into why I would be willing to pay more. To me, this isn't just like, do you want to pay a little more for the V6 versus the 4-cylinder? It's like, to me, this is like, I would also be willing to pay a little bit more for this electrical lifestyle, capability, sustainability. So that factors in. A lot of people I know are starting to say things like, well, I'm thinking of getting rid of my pick your car. And the next thing I get, I want it to have a plug.
Yeah.
And that's where you get something like this, I think fits a lot of those lifestyles. Now, this thing's not cheap, let's be honest.
Right.
But, I mean, again, I think when you look at the full cost proposition, there's reasons you would consider doing this, I think. Plus, there's a $100 tax credit still out there.
True. And yeah, this thing, I fell hard for this car. I am deeply in love with this. I took it over the weekend. I used it a lot. It looks fantastic from the outside. It's really well sculpted. It has some cool lighting features. Those wheels are enormous on it, but they look They look good. The proportions are nice. Then you get inside, and it's really comfortable. The materials are fantastic. Yeah, and then driving it's super quick and mega quiet. It's probably quieter than anything else I've driven that I can think of. It feels like it's built really well. It feels like it's held together by the hand of God. It's just like there are no squeaks, no rattles, no road noise, no wind noise. Like up to like, higher than the speed limit. It's very, very, very quiet. You do get a little bit of sound from the electric powertrain, and it sounds really good. The controls are all good. The seating position is great. That the dual touch screens for the infotainment and the HVAC look really nice. They work really well. I had to keep remembering to actually apply pressure to the touch screen because it's got that haptic feedback thing going on. But yeah, everything about this car was just really nice. It was, has that, you pop it into sport and it has that boost function. It gives you like 8 seconds of boost, and then as soon as you're done with that, it's ready to go again. It's repeatable. And yeah, almost 100 kilowatt hours of battery, 200 miles of range, which is pretty good. This thing just has so much going for it, and I would seriously want to own one of these. Maybe when it comes a few years from now, when you start to see them on the used market. Sad fact of the matter is EVs depreciate quite a bit still. It's becoming less and less, but this could be something I could own used someday, and I would absolutely love to.
That's a really smart observation. I think a used E-Tron, yeah, that sounds pretty good. Let somebody else pay sticker, and then you get it for, I don't know, 50, something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's pretty reasonable. I actually felt refreshed when I rolled into work on Tuesday morning in this thing. Like, it was just so comfortable, and I'm not exaggerating. It may be the smoothest EV I've ever driven.
Yeah.
Just the regen brakes were just dialed in, like not jerky. I mean, just the transition from the throttle, such as it is, to the brakes was just really easy to like get down. If you wanted to take off quickly, obviously you could do that. Sometimes EVs get a little herky-jerky.
Yeah.
This one, no.
Pretty smooth,
good.
yeah.
Silky.
And
you guys had me like drooling over here.
No kidding.
For the chance to get behind the wheel of one of these.
Pretty good, yeah.
So awesome. I like when I first started here, one of the first shoots I was on was the Nissan Leaf, and shortly after that, the Bolt came out, and it was like, okay, cool. These EVs are starting to become a little more mainstream, and now it's like we've entered this next, like you were saying, Greg, this next level where, I mean, you could pick out an EV from 2 miles away 5 years ago. Now it's like these are normal looking performance luxury cars now, and you got Rivian hopefully coming out with something in the next year or two, and this is like the time where EVs are really going to start to shine. I feel like no longer are they looking like I believe you called it the Nissan Loaf in one of our videos, John. They're like actually good looking performance vehicles, and it's like what we have wanted them to be for the last 10 years, and it's finally starting now.
Yeah, indeed. And gosh, this one is just, it's so well executed. And I just can't wait for there to be more formats, I can't wait for there to be EV pickups, 3-row SUVs. That would be the one thing that would, keep us from getting one for my family as our, primary vehicle. We're constantly putting kids and dogs and, coolers and all sorts of equipment in the back of it to drive, 250 miles up to our cottage. If we had something with 200, maybe let's say 300 miles and, the size of an XC90, that would be perfect. If you could put a plug and a Kia Telluride, I'd buy it immediately.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, really big SUVs is a great opportunity for car makers. I think if they could, find a way to get the necessary range without making them too expensive.
Yeah.
Too
Dial down the power.
Yeah, exactly. Because you don't need a ton of power with these. You're going
Right.
to get everything you need just right off the line with that instantaneous torque.
Yeah, and this e-tron just has so much content and technology just baked into it from the get-go. And I don't need that. It's really nice. I actually what do you think if you had to choose between the e-tron and the Jaguar I-Pace? What do you think you'd choose?
Wow, that's a tough one. Because when I drove the I-Pace, I was really surprised how much I liked it. I would have to probably look a little bit again at like cargo volume numbers, things like that.
Mhm.
I hate to be a prisoner of the moment because right now I'd probably skew towards e-tron just a little bit. It just felt a little smoother, a little just. I like the experience a little bit more. What do you think?
I agree. I feel like
close.
I feel like that. Yeah, the I-Pace felt a little slicker and sportier, but the e-tron's more well-rounded in my opinion, and things work better in it. The tech works better in it. There's no like latency in the infotainment. The I-Pace, you'd press a button, on the touch screen, and it would take a couple seconds before it would register. The Audi feels just better built to me too. It's just super duper solid.
I would say the Jaguar might be slightly cooler in appearance.
Yes,
It's got that like
I will-
elevated but chopped silhouette. That looks awesome.
And
I
it's
think.
got some really cool, aerodynamic details that are just unlike anything on any other car. It's definitely, yeah. I think the I-Pace might be the cooler car, but the e-tron is probably the better car.
The I-Pace has about 30 miles more range, 234 to 204, and the e-tron has 5 more cubic feet of cargo volume.
Okay. I'd take the cargo volume.
Yeah, me too. I think that 30 miles is maybe just enough that you might notice it, but also in real-world driving, you might not.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Any thoughts on the e-tron or any other EV things there, McGraw? I know you went to the reveal of this way back when.
I went to, so the reveal that I went to was actually the e-tron GT. That was at LA last year, which was gorgeous, and they didn't let us bring cameras in or anything. Mostly, I think, because Robert Downey Jr. showed up. But I am just like dying to try this thing out, especially out here. One of my biggest complaints driving around the mountains, I'm like at around 6,000 feet of elevation, and I have tested cars up to 14 out here. And when they're all naturally aspirated engines, like there's just no horsepower left when you're at 14,000 feet. It's just toast completely. And especially like my personal car driving around here is a Crosstrek, which had no horsepower to begin with. So like to drive an EV up Mount Evans would be a ton of fun, and I'm hoping they bring one out here pretty soon.
Yeah, man. I feel like this is a good car for Colorado. It's got the size, it's got the electric power. You don't have to worry about induction. And it has tons of grip, that Quattro system, especially in a car that weighs 5,700 pounds. It really sticks to the floor. But yeah, lots and lots of grip in this thing.
So, speaking of grip, how about we head over to the Formula One track, such as it is?
Yeah.
McGraw, you spent the better part of, it wasn't September, or did it stretch into August, basically training using the lifestyle and techniques and tactics of a Formula One driver. So what was that like?
It was pretty nuts. It was actually earlier in the year, in May, I started after we shot our mid-size pickup truck comparison, because I wasn't willing to stick to a diet when hanging out with all you guys in Michigan.
Yeah, we ate and drank quite a bit up there, if I recall. That was not how an F1 driver would live.
No, and I came home from that trip, actually, fittingly, like at my heaviest weight ever, which was a good place to start when doing this F1 training. So in August, I had this idea a couple years ago that I wanted to train for a month, fitness and diet wise. So no track time, but just fitness and diet like an F1 driver does. And I mean, these guys are crazy elite athletes. If you think about how much money each team spends on getting their cars like down a pound, that's how much you can, think about like losing a pound as a driver is worth. So I just started shooting off emails to everyone I knew who had ever coached an F1 driver. And lo and behold, I got an email back from this guy named Alex Stott, who was like, this sounds like a great idea. Do you know who, I pitched it to him just as a video idea, and he's like, do you know who the subject is going to be? And I'm like, well, I'm pretty sure I'm the only one who would agree to this on staff. And he laughed and was like, yeah, I figured that might be the case. So he like kind of gave me a bunch of information on dietary restrictions that I was going to be under, and then planned all my exercise based on like a bunch of tests that I did up front. How many squats I could do in a row, how much I could bench press, 3 times, how much weight I could hold while doing a pull-up, all this stuff. So yeah, it was pretty nuts. The first week, I remember thinking, oh God, what did I get myself into? I had just gotten back from that trip to Michigan, and I had this whole calendar laid out, and I hadn't done like any meal prep, and everything for the eating is very specific, like how many grams of fiber a day, how many grams of protein a day, how many grams of carbs, and how many grams of fat. And so I'm like just trying to eat, like keeping all these numbers, in a notebook. And after day 1, I was like, there's no way that I can keep doing this. So I got online, downloaded an app that keeps track of all that stuff for you. You just like scan the barcode, and kind of went from there and did a bunch of meal prep. But they say that, 3 weeks, after 3 weeks, what you're doing becomes habit. I don't know how true that is for everything, but for this, it definitely seemed like it, because that first week, I was just dead tired the entire time. My wife and I like to go rock climbing a lot out here, like after work, and I was just like, not happening. I can't get off the couch whatsoever. And by the 3rd week, I think I felt my best, and by the 4th week, it was just like autopilot. But yeah, it was nuts. I've never eaten so much in my life, which was interesting. I didn't think that I would.
You were eating more?
Yeah.
Wow.
So, like on a normal day-to-day basis, I probably eat like 15 or 1600 calories, or I did before this. And day 1, he had me doing 2100, which still isn't a ton. Like, for example, like anybody huge, like The Rock or whatever, eats like 6,000 or 7,000 calories a day or something crazy like that. But I think what it was more was that I was eating 130 grams of protein a day, which was like just protein shake after protein shake and protein bars. And then I discovered the wonderful world of cooked chicken breast and eggs, and it made it a lot easier from there. But yeah, the eating, in the video on our site, you can see my day 1, I like just left the gym. I was pretty tired, and I was like, I think the eating's going to be the hardest part of this. And like by day 3, that was wrong. Like the first serious day of working out, just like a normal week, I'll just run through like my normal week schedule. So on day 1, on a Monday, I would do a 60-minute run, which before this I wasn't running at all. Tuesday is strength circuits at the gym. So I was doing like deadlifts and dumbbell deadlifts, lunges, a bunch of core work, and then a bunch of like band work. Specifically with the band work, a driver is going around turns, hitting ridiculous G's in those cars, and they have a helmet on their head. And so, like, not only are they hitting these G's just like normal with the normal weight of their head, but they have that helmet on there, so they actually have to train their neck to be able to hold that weight around corners and braking and all that. So I was doing a lot of that, which at the gym, I can't even imagine what I looked like with like a huge rubber band on my forehead attached to like weights and like moving it back and forth. Probably looked ridiculous. I know I looked ridiculous. But
you see some weird things at the gym though, so you never know.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, there is a lot of stuff that you don't think about that these drivers go through, that my coach was like telling me about. Just the brake when they have to step on the brake pedal because of the force of the car, the brake pedal, they might have to apply like 220 pounds of force to the brake pedal just because of all the different forces that are acting on the car at the time.
Wow.
Which is crazy to think about. And that they lose anywhere from 4 to 11 pounds of liquid body fluid during a race just because it's so hot in there and they're wearing the suits and everything. And he said like the modern suits make everything a little better, but it's still hot in an F1 car. So that's nuts too. Just the stuff that they put their body through is just crazy. But it was definitely worth it by the end. And I've continued a lot of it since then, just because it's kind of become normal for me, and like eating such a strict diet has helped me out a lot. Like I had a few stomach issues before the training, and a lot of that went away. So I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna keep trying this.
I will say it was nice having a designated driver during the subcompact crossover shoot.
Yeah, that was the thing. Like no cheat days, no added sugar, and no alcohol during that entire time. So, yeah.
I'm curious how, since protein is so key, it sounds like you ate a lot of eggs. How did you get any like hacks for that? Were you just scrambling eggs or hard boiling eggs? I mean, I love eggs. I am always finding different ways to cook them and perfect my methods for cooking them. But I'm curious, like what, because at some point this is just commodity food. You got to get the fuel in there to like keep the fires burning. Like, what was your approach with that, I guess?
Yeah, so like my normal before this to eat eggs was just like throw them in a frying pan, throw some butter down on there, and sunny side up sort of a deal. Because I was watching my fats a little bit closer and calories overall, I scrapped the butter. And so like for the first week, I was just frying up eggs normal. And then after that first week, there were times when I just wanted to, like scarf it down real quick. So I had everything under the sun from like I'd hard boil a dozen eggs and then just like eat them as a snack, like after a workout. Or I did do the Rocky thing with one egg, just like tried it raw. I would not recommend that. That was disgusting. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I was like, oh, maybe this will make life easier. And it didn't. It was awful. But yeah, most of the time it was just doing sunny side up, scrambled, or my weekend like treat was I would make like a breakfast burrito with like a whole grain, whole wheat tortilla and do that sort of a thing. So eggs every which way. Same with chicken too. Chicken became my best friend. Like buffalo, like 0 calorie buffalo sauce, like going out and getting Frank's Red Hot or whatever. Anything to add to chicken so that it wasn't tasting the same all the time, because I had probably, I don't know how many pounds, probably like 20 pounds of chicken over the 30 days. So,
Lord.
That's a lot of chicken.
Yeah.
I will say I'm hungry for eggs now. I'm gonna have a breakfast sandwich for dinner, I think.
That's a good idea. I've been frying eggs in olive oil. I find that comes out pretty good.
Yeah. That's a healthy fat for you too. You gotta keep up the the fat calories a little bit. I think I was doing like 70 grams of fat a day.
Gotcha.
And olive oil is one of the ones that they suggested. So
Okay. So any takeaways now that you've done this, you're 20 pounds lighter. I don't know. Would you recommend this to the average person as a way to lose weight? I don't know. What do you think? Would you do it again?
I would totally do it again. Part of me wonders what it would have been like had I not been at my heaviest weight ever and was already reasonably fit. As a way to lose weight, I mean, I lost 10 pounds in 30 days. So I'm going to say that worked for me.
That's a lot. And that's a lot pretty quick.
Yeah, I was really stupid too and bought 2 new pairs of jeans right before this all started. And it was I bought size 33 and now I'm size 30. So it definitely was a good way to lose weight. And not only just lose weight, but keep my strength up too. Because I was working out so much. Because I was losing all this weight, I thought for sure that my weight lifting would suffer, and I actually gained, I was able to gain in that area while losing weight, which is not very easy. So I was definitely gaining muscle during that time too. So it was more like taking pounds away from fat and giving pounds to muscle, which is kind of cool. I would definitely recommend it, but if you're not willing to do the craziness of a whole 30-day thing. One really simple thing that I did every day was drink a gallon of water, or in my case it was iced tea because I like unsweetened iced tea better. But drinking that much liquid a day made me feel so much better. I felt like I had so much more energy, and obviously a lot was going on in those 30 days, but that's something that I think is reasonable for anybody to do if they just want something easy to do to feel better, is just try to go through a gallon of water a day and see how you feel.
It's a good tip. I think I probably get somewhere close to that. I'm constantly drinking water at my desk. Yeah, it's a good way. You feel better. I mean, when you don't have water in you and you're not hydrated, I think most people will feel it. So, excuse me. Need some water. If you are, not feeling well, try some water. I guess that's the takeaway here. But that's a cool story. That's, I think, check out the video, check out the story. That's on the site. It's also on YouTube. So if you're interested, trying to get fit, maybe try it in a different way. There's a lot of takeaways here. So with that, let's spend some money. This is also fairly relative. It's directly relative to Chris's personal life. He is looking at getting an older Land Cruiser and a few other potential options out there. Chris, why don't you just kind of tell us what's on your plate here, or on your menu for what you're thinking of doing?
Yeah, definitely. So I've lived out in Colorado for, I think, a year and a half, little less than a year and a half now, and I have, my wife and I have been surviving with one vehicle, and it's worked out fine. But she recently got a new job that's not within walking distance of our apartment anymore. So she has taken our XV with her pretty much every day when she's going to work. And that's fine. I work from home. I occasionally get press cars, so it's not like I need to buy anything right away. But as an automotive enthusiast, I'm always looking at what my next car could be. And I have settled, thanks a lot to Jeremy Korzeniewski and Alex Kirstein, on buying a larger Toyota SUV or a crew cab Tacoma. The SUVs I've been looking at and driving a lot of, I've been driving a lot of the 100 series, so the Land Cruisers and the LX 470s from 98 to 06 are the ones I've driven. And then I also have driven a few 08 GX 470s, and my cousin's got an 08 4Runner with the V8. And I've driven a lot of Tacomas in general. So I'm trying to kind of figure out what out of all of those I want, basically to be my vehicle for when my wife and I want to go camping in the mountains, which we do quite often. Maybe bring our dog with us, maybe, I would keep this car for a while, so maybe there'd be family involved in the future, but that's why we're looking at Tacomas with more than 2 doors. But I want to be able to sleep in my car or on top of my car and maybe do like a little bit light overlanding. How do you guys feel about that?
I think that's pretty cool. You mentioned a Lexus GX. That's going to be a little smaller, but gosh, it's so drivable. We had one we were talking about it last week on the podcast, and it's still got 3 rows, a little less cargo room, but you're not like 7 feet tall or anything. So.
No, I'm pretty short. Yeah, I'm 5'7", and same with my wife.
Come to think of it, those seats don't fold down super flat, so that might be out of the question for you if you want to sleep in it.
But I can always get a rooftop tent. That's another thing I've been thinking about.
I late 90s, my dad had he had a Land Cruiser, and then he sold that and got the Lexus LX, and that was great. That's got a ton of space. The thing with all of these is you're going to be spending a lot on gas. Yeah. We go from talking EVs to something that gets 13 miles to the gallon around town. Yeah. But I personally like the Lexus options a little better, simply because they're more. I find them more drivable. The suspension's a little better for like everyday driving. You might find a little bit better off-road chops in the Toyota versions, but I don't know. I like the Lexus experience a little bit better. What about you, Greg?
So I think it sort of depends a little bit, what kind of miles you're willing to accept, and then, how much you want to pay for it. I think if you dip back into like the late 90s, especially the Land Cruisers, I wouldn't call that the icon, but it's an old SUV. You're going back in time. So the driving experience is going to be, rougher. It's going to be, the interior is going to be certainly dated. I think that if you want to look and spend a bit more money, if you look at more like maybe a late 2000s, 2010s, somewhere in there, if you want to go with one of the Lexuses, well, okay, you're going to have something that's fairly modern. I believe consumer editor Jeremy Korzeniowski does he have a GX? Is that what he has?
Yeah, he's got a GX 570, I believe.
Yeah. I mean, I would frankly go probably one of those 2 routes. As much as I like the Tacoma, I'd probably rule it out simply because I think, if you do end up having kids, maybe not right away, but that's going to get pretty tight pretty fast. I think you're going to find that the use case for the bed isn't all that great. You're going to find yourself like, bolting stuff down, and it's just not going to be what you want. But, I think my gut would be to go with, find somewhat advanced miles Lexus and, pick whichever size you like and go with that. I think I'll kind of stay with Snyder on this one. I think the Land Cruiser would be a pretty easy second choice for me too, especially if you can find one that's in good shape. It'd be cool to drive an Icon for a while too.
Yeah, it's funny out here. I mean, in Colorado, there's a big Toyota tax. Everything Toyota is just more expensive. So you can get like a similar miles, similar age Lexus actually for cheaper than the Toyota version. So yeah, I think I'm with you guys. Probably going to lean towards an LX that's a little bit newer. The last one I drove was 98, and that just seemed a little old for me. But I think you guys are right on there.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you won't regret it with like the interior, like quality, and the fact that even if you get one with, 80,000 miles on it, you probably got another 80,000 to go. Lexus quality and reliability is pretty good.
Yeah.
So something to think about.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we are out of time. Thanks for listening to the Autoblog Podcast this week. Reach out to us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, of course, iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you're so inclined, please leave us a 5-star rating. It helps us get the word out about the Autoblog Podcast. It's been fun, guys. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.